Greetings, YouTube. Alain Leach back at you from right here at South Georgia Figs, right here in Grow Zone 8B in Tifton, Georgia. And in this evening's video, YouTube, we're going to give you guys a quick peek at about a dozen fig tree cuttings that we began propagating here about 17 days ago, YouTube. Before I do that, YouTube, I want to just say this. Fig tree propagation is extremely easy. Anyone can do it. You don't have to be an expert, a botanist, a gardener, a horticulturist, or anything like that to propagate fig tree cuttings. In fact, fig tree propagation is so easy that you only need three things, YouTube. All you need is viable cuttings, containers, and good soil. And you, too, can propagate fig tree cuttings. I'm going to flip this camera around for you guys right now and give you guys a quick look at a variety of fig tree cuttings that we begun, again, propagated about 17 days ago and show you the growth progress that they've made during the past 17 days here at South Georgia Figs. Take a look at this, YouTube. Yeah, yes indeed, YouTube. We have about 12 fig trees here that we begun propagating about 17 days ago, YouTube. Starting from left to right, we have two Verdun strawberry fig trees here. We propagated these fig trees in 1 pint containers. As you can see here, YouTube, we have a crate back there that holds 12 1 pint containers, and these are indeed the containers here. Next up, we have 3 white honey drop figs here, YouTube. They're all looking fantastically well here. Again, we began propagating these fig trees about 17 days ago, YouTube. We're going to take these first several fig trees and sit them back in the container to make more room up here as we continue this video, YouTube. Next up, YouTube, we have our one lone white Texas fig tree cutting here, YouTube, and a knobby cutting it was, a chunky and knobby cutting it was, but that's a good thing, YouTube, because as you can see, every last one of those knobs is putting out new growth and budding out for us, YouTube. That lets us know this was a very viable cutting, YouTube, and it's growing vigorously for us here at South Georgia Figs. Next up, we have our one Malta black fig tree cutting here, YouTube, and slow to propagate. I'll be honest with you guys, I really almost gave up on this cutting. It took forever and a day for this cutting to actually show signs of life. I didn't know whether the cutting was having some issues or whether it was actually a viable cutting or not, but as you can see, YouTube, right here, that one little tiny speck of green, that was the first thing that showed us that any signs of life here on this fig tree cutting. And coincidentally, about a week later, bam, up here at the top, that particular node there began to bud out for us, although it's growing a lot faster than the original bud down here on the stem down here, YouTube. But again, this is our one Malta black fig here, YouTube. I'm going to sit it to the side. Next up, we have 2 Basilica Sika fig tree cuttings here, YouTube, that we have indeed been able to successfully propagate here. They're doing some rapid growing for us here, YouTube, and they're both looking exceptionally well here at South Georgia Figs. We're going to go ahead and sit these 2 cuttings here back over in this tray over here. Next up, we have 3 sumac fig tree cuttings, YouTube, and they were swift to propagate for us here at South Georgia Figs. And they put on some rapid growth since they did propagate for us here, YouTube. Our first one. This is our second one. Looking fantastically well. And this is our third one. Our third one, we did indeed have some issues propagating this cutting. We actually had to remove this cutting from this pot, whack off about an inch of the bottom, put it back in the soil, watered it in good, and it finally began to propagate for us here, YouTube. And as you can see, it's putting on a lot of growth since we actually whacked off that bottom inch or so from this cutting and replaced it back inside of the container. What we're going to do here now, YouTube, is choose one of these fig tree cuttings, because as you guys know, fig tree cuttings will indeed, a lot of varieties will indeed sprout foliage long before they actually sprout roots. We want to show you guys that Again, it's very simple to propagate fig tree cuttings. Anybody can do it. Again, all you need is cuttings, soil, and containers, and you too can do this no matter where you stay. Even if you stay in a northern grow zone, you can still propagate fig tree cuttings. They'll take a longer time to propagate. They'll grow slower. You might not get figs for a couple of years, but you can still grow fig trees in your grow zone too. YouTube. At any rate, at this time, we're going to choose one of these cuttings, remove it from its container, and show you guys that we're not just growing foliage here. All of these fig tree cuttings are indeed fully rooted, regardless to how much foliage they do or don't have on the cuttings. So let's see. As a matter of fact, YouTube, we're going to take the cutting with the least amount of foliage on it and show you guys that we're not just growing foliage on these fig tree cuttings, we're actually growing roots on these fig tree cuttings. And again, a lot of cuttings will grow roots before they actually bud out. A lot of cuttings will actually grow foliage long before they actually develop healthy root systems. So we're going to take this Malta Black and see if we can coax it up out of this container here. We're going to show you guys what the root system, if we have one, looks like on this particular cutting here, YouTube. Take a look at this. Pour that guy. Yeah, it's coming out pretty good. I'm going to pour this guy out of the container and show you guys what the roots look like on this one, even though it has virtually no foliage on it, YouTube. Take a look at this. Can you guys see the tremendous amount of roots that this cutting has developed in just 17 days here at South Georgia Figs? No foliage, well, virtually no foliage, but a ton of roots. And that's exactly what we prefer here at South Georgia Figs. We would much prefer for our fig tree cuttings to develop a healthy root system prior to putting out a lot of foliage, YouTube. Again, Malta Black, 17 days in, container, cutting, and soil. No rooting hormone, YouTube. And look at all of those roots. Again, anybody can do this. In tomorrow's short video, YouTube, we're going to show you guys exactly how easy it is to actually propagate these cuttings. We're going to take a cutting out of our refrigerator that we've had in there for several months now. Prepare that cutting. Select a small container, fill it with soil, and show you guys how we go about actually propagating fig tree cuttings. Thanks for watching, YouTube.